Liz Thompson, the National Education Manager of Janome Sewing Machines in Canada, and I wanted to take this opportunity of congratulating you on the purchase of your Sewist 740 DC, or possibly you are interested in purchasing this machine. Now, I am going to tell you at the outset that I am not going to repeat the information that is found in the instructional DVD that comes with the machine, or in the manual that also comes with the machine. That's not my intent with this little video. What I would like to do is provide some supplementary information and provide you also with a couple of little ideas of what you can be doing with the feet and accessories that come with the machine, and also, as I say, to give additional information. Please watch right through till the end of the video because I will give information at the end of the video on places where you can send your questions and your queries about the machine if you're thinking of purchasing, or after you've purchased it if you have some questions that you may want to ask. Okay, without further ado, I want to point here to the accessory box on the machine, and you may or may not know that this slips off the machine quite easily, and I wanted to point out to you that there is the buttonhole foot popped into the accessory box. Sometimes we get calls from people who say, oh, there's a buttonhole foot missing, when actually it was there in the accessory box and they had missed it. Okay. The first thing I want to point out is that we have an extension table that comes packed with this machine. Now, that's quite a bonus because not all of our machines have a table packed with them. This table has got 4 little legs that fold out really easily, and you will also notice that there is a little screw in the bottom of the leg, or the foot of the leg, and that you will need a Phillips screwdriver for that, and you can adjust that little screw and that will adjust the height of the table a little if necessary. I don't think it's necessary as is straight out of the box, but it's there in case you need it. And I'm going to leave that extension table on the machine because I think it is really a very nice thing to have. It gives an extra work surface for your sewing. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about the feet and accessories that are included with this machine. First of all, let's just take that foot off and find this foot for you. This one is the A foot, which is the regular sewing foot, and that is the foot that comes packed in the box on the machine. And that foot has this little black button on the side, which is known as the self-leveling button. And the manual talks about that on page 27. And it will give you some more information. But this foot is going to be the foot that you're going to use for a good deal of your sewing. The next foot that I want to talk about is the F foot. I call it the F for fun foot. It is the satin stitch foot, and it has it's clear so you can see through. So if you're doing decorative stitches or satin stitches, that sort of thing, you can see what you're sewing. But the real important thing about knowing about this foot is that it has a channel, or a sort of like little gully underneath the foot, so that if you are doing something that's got stitch width to it, like a satin stitch or a decorative stitch, it's going to, the fabric with the stitching on it is going to flow nicely underneath that foot and not get caught up. Okay, the next foot that I want to talk about, in fact, I'm going to get the manual, and that's going to be a lot easier for me to talk about them in the right order. All right, the next one I want to talk about is the zipper foot. And this is the zipper foot E, and this foot actually can be attached to the machine on the left or the right of the foot. If we attach it to the right, then I could come along with my zipper and I could sew along the zipper, and I could move my needle position over to, let's just go to the straight stitch and then move my needle position over. And you can see how I'm going to be getting really, really close. That's actually possibly too close to the zipper teeth. Obviously, I would have fabric there, but I just wanted to show you in relation to the zipper teeth. But if you were sewing up the other side of a zipper, and let's just lift the needle. By the way, your needle would be needle up and down. You've got a needle up down button as well as using your flywheel. You could then, as I say, attach the zipper to the other side of the zipper, and then you could be sewing on that side. So it is a very versatile foot, and there's quite a lot of information about the zipper foot and how to use it and how to sew a zipper on pages 44 to 46 of the manual. In addition to that foot, and of course the buttonhole foot that I mentioned was kept in the accessory box, that buttonhole foot, there are also a number of pages in the manual. Page 35 to 40 talks about the buttonholes and how to do buttonholes and how to use that buttonhole foot, so I'm not going to repeat that. It's pretty good in the manual, and it's also on the instructional DVD. Another foot that I want to point out to you is the G foot. It's got the little letter G there. It is the blind hem foot. And when we are doing a blind hem, we would be choosing a blind hem stitch, and that would be stitch number 12. And if I get a piece of knit fabric here, and I fold it over as though I was doing a hem, and then I flip it back, and I sew now with the guide of the foot against my folded edge, and I'm stitching onto my hem fabric, the bit that I've folded up for my hem, and then catch just a little bit of the fold. That gives me as close to a blind hem as I can get. And that would be how you would use the blind hem foot and the blind hem stitch, which is stitch number 12. This is also covered in your manual. The next foot that is provided with the machine is the C foot, which is an overcasting or over edge foot, and it's used for neatening seams. It's got a nice little brush there which kind of keeps the raw edges of fabric in. So I'm going to show you a stitch. Let's find this stitch here, number 9. Looks like it's a good one to use. And I'm going to just pop my thread under the foot, and I'm going to stitch along using this little guide on the side of the foot along the edge of my fabric, and stitch along, and it gives me a nice neatened seam edge. And then I'm going to take that out, and there you can see the stitching that has gone along the edge. The white you're seeing sticking out is just a piece of stabilizer that I had behind the fabric. So this is really nice for neatening off seams. It's kind of a little bit like what a serger would do, except it's not cutting off the edge. The other foot that also comes with the machine is the M foot, and this one, this one is one of my favorites. Before I actually attach it, let me just show you these little prongs or forks here and this little guide, and you're going to ride your fabric up against that guide. These little prongs, the stitches are going to form over them, and it's almost like a stitch finger on a serger. It creates something really, really close to serging. So again, if we bring our little piece of fabric along and we just go down the other side of the fabric, let me choose a stitch for that, and we can ride along the edge of the fabric, and it forms a very nice overcasting or kind of like a serger stitch on the edge. And then when you take it off this foot, don't pull it out directly to the side. You need to take it out to the back so that the stitches that have formed over those little prongs don't snag the thread. And there you have the overcasting stitch, which, as you can see, looks very like something you would do on a serger. Okay. And more things that come with your machine. There is a quilting guide bar, and that is used. It fits into the ankle of the foot, and I'm just going to take that foot off and put the regular foot back on. And I'm going to get a piece of fabric and show you that, let's say for argument's sake, I had done some quilting. Let's just move that little thread to the back. I had done some quilting, and now I wanted to come and put another line of stitching on my quilt. We're just going to pretend this is a quilt, even though it's just 2 pieces of fabric. I want to come and do another row of quilting, but I don't want the quilting so close and use the foot against the previous row of stitching. I don't want to do that. I want to have more space between my rows of stitching. This is when your quilting guide bar comes in very handy, because now what I do is I line up the quilting guide bar with my previous stitched row, and then I come down there and I can now have my 2 rows of stitching, and they're further apart. So that is a quilting guide bar, very useful piece of equipment. Then we also have in the package of feet and accessories with the machine, we have 2 large spool caps. Those spool caps are meant to be used with large spools of thread, and you will see on the top of the machine that I'm using one of the smaller spool caps, the one that looks like this, because that is not a terribly large spool cap. I wouldn't use the very large spool cap with that smaller spool, because what I might find happening is that the thread catches on the spool cap, and then it can cause a little bit of drag and some extra tension on the thread, and I may not be happy with the stitch that forms. The other thing that comes with the machine is a extra spool pin, and that is for when you are perhaps needing to use 2 spools of thread because you're going to be doing some twin needle work. So you need 2 spools of thread to come down through the machine and be threaded into your twin needle. So Janome has thought of everything and given you an extra spool pin for that purpose. You also have 4 bobbins, and it is very important to know that you are to use the correct Janome plastic bobbins. Don't use metal bobbins or old bobbins that you've got from some other model machine that maybe took a different size bobbin. You need to have this size bobbin and plastic ones, and there are 4 that come with the machine. If you need more than that, you're very welcome to contact a Janome dealer. If you bought this machine online, you might not know where a Janome dealer is. In that case, it's very easy to answer that. You just go to janome.ca, and up at the top of the page, the home screen, you will see a little Canadian flag, and next to that you will see where to buy. And if you click on that, it will give you a listing of all the authorized Janome dealers across Canada. And you can pick one that suits you or someone that's near you, and they will be very happy to help you with bobbins or needles or anything else that you may require. Also, what comes with this machine is a box of needles. And you may see from where you are, let me just stand up and come closer to the camera. You might see that there is a blue needle in the middle, what we call our blue tip needle. We also at Janome make red tip needles and purple tip needles. And I'm not going to go into too much detail at this point as to what those needles are, other than to tell you that those needles, the information about them can be found on Janome Life. And Janome Life is a blog that we have had in existence for more than 10 years. And we do many posts a week. Currently, at the moment, we're doing one post every day. And there are archives where all those posts are stored. And there is a search box. So if you wanted to find out about red, blue, and purple tip needles from Janome, and we do recommend our needles, because if you are using the needle threader, which the manual and the instructional DVD are pretty good at showing you how to use, you do want to be using a Janome needle. If you don't use a Janome needle, you do run the risk of possibly bending the little wire that threads the needle. Our Janome needles are made for us by organ, so long as you use organ needles or Janome needles, and all the information about red, blue, and purple tip you will find on Janome Life blog. How do you access Janome Life blog? That's quite easy to answer too. Just go to janome.ca again and .ca, and at the top of the homepage you will see a blog tab. Click that and it will take you to the Janome Life blog, or alternatively you can Google janomelife.wordpress.com and it will take you there, and then just write red tip needle in the search box and up will come the posts where we've talked about that. Incidentally, there's loads more than just information about needles, so you will kind of go down a rabbit warren if you end up going to Janome Life and finding the information. Right, the next thing I want to talk about is this little necessary piece of equipment. None of us like to unpick and do reverse sewing, but it is pretty much, you know, it happens to the best of us, and so it is very good to have a little seam ripper just in case you need it if you make a mistake. There is also a little brush, and I want to show you now how to get to the area below your needle plate. This very cute little screwdriver comes with the machine as well, and you can use that to undo the screws on the needle plate. There are 2 of them, and be careful with those screws once you take them out, because they have a nasty habit of rolling onto the floor, off the table and onto the floor, and then you'll end up grubbing around on the floor looking for it. So just take care. Put it onto a magnetic pin cushion or something like that. Okay, so I did want to point out to you that we have a lot of markings on our needle plate, and these markings are patented to Janome. And you may look at that needle plate and say, oh my goodness, what do all those lines mean? Well, once again, go to Janome Life. We have done blog posts about markings on the needle plate. So just search for needle plate markings and it will explain to you exactly what all these little lines and angles and so on mean. They're very, very useful. So you probably do want to look that up. Now, I took this off for the express reason of showing you how to take your bobbin case out. It's really that easy. And also to point out to you, and I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to check with the camera now. I have to stand up to do that, but yes, you can see. This area here, underneath where the bobbin case sits, is called the hook race. And right in the middle of that is a little, it looks like fluff. Trust me, it's not fluff. Please don't take your tweezers and pull that out, because you're then going to have to take the machine into the dealer and they're going to have to fix it for you. There is a wick for oil, and you are going to need to oil your machine just the same as you would oil your car. You wouldn't drive your car for 10 years without oiling it, and so it is with your machine. And so a drop of oil gets placed onto that little wick under the bobbin case, and that is the only place that you are going to oil this machine. Further lubrication and oiling of this machine does need to be done by an authorized Janome technician. I want to show you the bobbin case a little closer. You will see that there is a little red marking on the bobbin case, and that shows you that it is a regular sewing bobbin case. So most of your sewing will be done with this bobbin case. And it comes with your machine, of course. There is another bobbin case called a blue dot bobbin case, and you can find out loads more information about why there is one, what it does, and so on Janome Life blog. And that one actually has a little blue marking instead of the red marking, and we use it predominantly for quilting. That one is an optional accessory and would be purchased from your dealer. When you put the bobbin case back into the machine, you're going to line up the red line with the line on this little bobbin stopper, and that way you know you've seated the bobbin back in the machine in the correct place. And then of course we put the needle plate back, and we put the screws back, and we tighten those screws so that everything's back in its place where it should be. And then I'm going to use that handy dandy little screwdriver just to tighten those screws a little more. And this one, if I can do it with my left hand. There we go. All right. Something else that I did not show you earlier, and it's quite hard to show you at the machine because it's quite big, but there is also a hard cover that comes with this machine, and again that's a bonus because not all machines have a hard cover, and that's really nice for keeping the dust off your machine, as well as if you want to travel with the machine, go to a class or a retreat or something like that, you can put the cover on the machine, and then the handle, the carry handle, comes up through the middle of the hard cover, and you can actually carry the machine. One little word about traveling with your machine, and that is that the best place to put your machine in the car is on the back seat. Not on the floor behind your seat, and not in the trunk, because heaven forbid, but if you were to have a car accident, that machine would go all over the car if it wasn't strapped in. In the trunk, it runs the risk of falling over, so the best place is on the back seat, and you strap it in with the safety belt through the handle of the machine, just like you would strap a child into a car seat, and then you know that your machine is quite safe and will stay exactly where it needs to be while you're driving. In terms of putting the bobbin back into the machine, you have wound a bobbin. I'm not going to go into that because that is explained very well in the manual and the DVD. But when you've wound your bobbin, you look at it as though it was the letter P for Peter. And the thread comes off this side of the bobbin, and you simply drop it into the bobbin, put your finger on the bobbin, and then run the thread around the little guides 1 and 2. And that's known as our easy set bobbin, and it is as simple as that.